welcome to another episode of Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Bullock, and as always, we like to talk about things related to business continuity, COVID, disaster planning, wellness, resilience, anything that's relatable to those topics. Speaking of topics, if you'd like to be a guest on the show or have us talk about a specific topic, please feel free. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just reach out with your question. I'm the only Alex Bullock there, so I'm really easy to find, and I do respond to everything I get. A couple of quick announcements. I will be speaking at a couple of conferences later this year. The first one, October 4th to 6th, is the Continuity Insights Conference in Minneapolis. Hopefully I can be on site for that. The next in November is November 3rd to 4th at BCI World Virtual. And the last one in December 1st to 2nd in Toronto at the Continuity and Resilience Today conference. So hopefully I can meet some of you and maybe get you on the show. Today is a special show. It's a returning guest, and you probably may know who the guest is today just by looking on the other side of your screen. She's actually been on the Voice America show a couple of times already, on September 13th, 2018, and September 17th in 2020, and even made a couple of guest appearances at DRJ when we did a couple of live broadcasts in 2018 and 2019, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to welcome back to the show for a third full episode, I should say, Cheyene Marling. Cheyene, welcome back.
Thank you for having me, Alex.
Now, I know a lot of people are going to know who Cheyene Marling is, but we do have people literally around the globe now, at all four corners. Can you take a minute or two and just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you got into this crazy world?
Yeah, well, I fell into business continuity planning like many other individuals, right? I fell into it, oh my gosh, over 20 years ago, back in 1998. And I'm on the staffing recruiting side. So I fell into this business during Y2K planning. And one of my largest clients back then was Comdisco. And we helped them quickly identify staff across the US in helping their clients with their Y2K planning efforts. And then since then, I decided to start BC Management back in March of 2000 to be specifically focused in the staffing industry for business continuity, resiliency, crisis management professionals. And now we've grown to, oh my gosh, having a candidate database, contact database of over 60,000, over 90 countries. We've helped clients in Japan, Taiwan, Singapore, Brazil, the UK, Ireland, Mexico, Canada, worldwide. So this has really been our niche market. The staffing is, as well as the data research, which we'll be talking about today. Mm-hmm. A little bit fun fact about myself. I'm an avid runner. It helps kind of de-stress my day-to-day routine, and the technology breaks are huge right now. So for those who follow me on LinkedIn, I do a lot of, I try to do informative running videos, try to, give some positive vibes to everyone in a crazy work week.
I see those videos on LinkedIn, and all that beautiful weather in the background and
the palm trees.
Yeah, and you sit here in the middle of winter up here in Canada, and it's, I'm so jealous, running in the nice warm weather, blue skies.
I have to tell you, I'm a Wisconsin girl at heart, so I can appreciate the cold weather, which I do miss in the fall time.
You say that now until it actually gets
exactly, until it comes.
Now, you mentioned some of the research, and I know BC Management does a lot of research. And today we're actually going to talk about the 19th edition, which tells you just how much research Cheyene and her team does, of the 2021 BCM compensation report. And here's my copy here, nice and glossy. Lots of interesting information and findings in this thing. But before we get into some of the content, can you kind of give us a little bit of background? How do you go about collecting all the data? Because there's a lot of data here. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah. So we've been using a company called Key Survey World app. We've been using them since 2009, which is great because we have the ability to trend the data going back over 10 years. We have some great study partners who also distribute the study for us. So in combination with sending out the studies or any of our studies through our BCM research group, we also reach out to Continuity Central, Continuity Insights, DRJ, all the great associations on a worldwide basis, and they push out the study for us. From there, we have a dashboard, which we'll try to showcase a little bit today, but we have a dashboard that helps us assess the data, and we can slice and dice the data based on the person's job title, based on years of experience, based on their geography. So we have a couple different options, but the data has been gathered in this survey portal. And with the dashboard, it's enabled us to quickly assess the data and report back on the data findings.
Now, the report itself, there's quite a few sections here, and I'm not sure what we call it. The titles are compensation by gender, ethnicity. So for me, I'll just say component sections. There's about, what, 8 of them or so, somewhere around there?
Yeah.
Yeah, seven or eight, I can't remember. Can you touch on a couple of them? I do want people to kind of have an idea of what's in the report, but I also want to send them to you so they can kind of have a look around and ask questions. And by the way, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they can find this report if they go to www.bcmanagement.com.
Yes.
Is that right?
And click on research and insights.
Okay. I'm going to include that link to that in the video description so that anybody who wants look into some of this information a little bit more can go and have a look and reach out if they've got questions. So
sure, of course.
So let's go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so getting to your question, we have, yes, different sections within the study. And so we found that over the given time of doing this great report, that there are certain factors that definitely contribute to your earning potential. Some of those more so than others, but of course, the management skills, the leadership skills by degree, by certification, geography, but then we're also assessing by ethnicity and gender. And I'm honestly really kicking myself that I did not do the gender and ethnicity assessment later on. I think we added that about maybe 3 to 4 years ago. And obviously so much has changed in the last 20 years, but still valuable data regardless.
Oh yeah, there's some really interesting stuff here. I enjoy looking at these reports when they come out, because sometimes they show things you just, really? Wow, that's different. But we'll get to some of that stuff later. So these components, the 7A components, let's talk a little bit about a few of them. The first one, geography.
Yes. So we did have a great response from 52 countries. So we did partner with this study with the BCI. So they also pushed it out through their channel as well. As I should have mentioned at the beginning. But we had 52 countries responded to the study. And our greatest, the country that received the greatest response was from the US, and then UK, and then Canada. We also got a great response from Australia as well as New Zealand, but 52 countries worldwide. And then our report also goes into by compensation. And just so you know, we did convert all the currencies to US dollars just to have a kind of a consistency with the data set as we went through the geography piece. But then with the dashboards that people get from doing the study, there is a dashboard exclusively for Canada in Canadian dollars. There's one for the UK in pounds, yes. And there's another one for anyone within Europe that responded in euros. And the great thing is we're hopeful to also do another dashboard later on because the study still remains open. So anyone who still contributes to the study can still get that dashboard. Any new responses will auto-populate into the dashboards that have already been created. So I'm monitoring it right now because we're very close to releasing a dashboard for Australia and potentially New Zealand as well. So great response on a worldwide basis. And then from there, within the report, we also have a section by regions or provinces within Canada, and then by states for the USA.
Were there any regions, I know with US and Canada and Europe and Australia in general, those are the kind of countries you would kind of expect to get responses from. Were there any surprises? Like, I can't believe I got a response from, XYZ country.
Oh my gosh, there were a few, I want to say maybe Nigeria. There are a few countries that, Maritas, we have a few that are overseas that, 1 or 2 couple of responses here and there. And I find that it's consistent because we always get 1 or 2 from those same countries. So I think those individuals are just very interested in getting the data and the reports, and they've always been very good at contributing to the studies.
Oh, good. Let's go to the next one, gender and ethnicity. Now, you already alluded to this, and you wish you had done that, I guess, years sooner. So what kind of findings did you come across with regards to gender and ethnicity?
So I wish I would have collected data earlier on this topic. Within the report, there is an assessment for full-time permanent employees as well as independent fixed-term contractors. One thing I did find interesting is that for the permanent, 33% of the respondents were women and 65 were men. 1% chose not to disclose. So there was an option not to disclose your gender or ethnicity. But then contractors, 17% were female and, 70% were female, 79% were male. But the women on contractors, independent contractors, they on average out-earned the men who were independent contractors. So that was one interesting data finding that I didn't expect to see. Now, women, on the other hand, within the permanent sector, the men out-earned on average the women. I think it was I have to look at my data, I think it was about either 17 or 18%.
Wow, that's an interesting finding.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you said it was for contractors and full-time employees. So I'm guessing you had a mixture of both of those, obviously, to respond. Were any of the questions different? You know, if you're a contractor, answer this. If you're a full-timer, answer this. Just out of curiosity.
Yes, great question. So we do have two individual study links, one for fixed-term independent contractors and another one for permanent unemployed or retired professionals. And depending on how you answer the questions, your study experience is different from someone else. So obviously the independent contractor study link is different from the permanent employee study link. So the independent contractors, they got questions on what kind of consulting engagements were they involved in, how often were they booked during the last year, how long is their typical engagement, how do they bill their clients, and then on the other side of the coin, those who are permanently employed, if you answer that you're unemployed, you got a different question set from people that were currently employed on a full-time basis. So there's a lot of logic built into the study, as well as when someone takes the study, they can indicate the percent of their responsibilities are involved in business continuity or crisis management, and then it auto sums your responsibilities. So make sure it equals out to 100 from a data assessment. So there's a lot of logic that's been built into the study over the last 19 years.
Now, I'm curious, I don't have it listed here, but I can't help but ask the question now. With regards to the gender and ethnicity, and having heard recently that there's still this concern that in the next few years, a lot of people are going to be leaving the industry because of age. How did that reflect into some of the findings? Are you finding that a lot of the respondents were I guess baby boomers, let's say, because they are the generation that's going to be leaving the workforce or starting to leave the workforce. Did you find anything that stood out in that area?
So the data, especially over the last 5 to 10 years, has always reflected that on average, professionals who responded to the study, they were doing something else before they got into business continuity planning. And we can certainly assess the data that it's typically about 20 to 30 years total work experience, but maybe between 10 to 15 business continuity expertise. Last year, our study showed that there are more women getting into the industry than men who had less than 5 years experience. This year is pretty equal. When also looking at the data, we noticed that there were men, if they were in the industry for, or working in the industry for like 15, 20 years, that many of them did not get their bachelor degree. They came right into this industry through the technology, programming, data center, and then migrated into the DR component. So they never needed to necessarily get their degree. And it's also interesting to slice and dice the data by certification as well. There's a lot of individuals who've been in the industry for a very long time that they perhaps did have their certification at one point, but no longer carry their certified, it's lapsed in time. So there's definitely different trigger points that we've seen within the study for quite some time. But from looking at how the career path into the profession, those who've been in it for 15, 20 years tends to be more IT, data centers, systems focused, where those who are newer to the industry, it tends to be more program management, sometimes operations, sometimes consulting, and even sometimes on the risk management or within crisis emergency management planning within the government sector. So there's so many career paths come into the BCM field.
Yeah, like you, I fell into it by accident too. So I don't have a degree in this at all. It's all 24 years of experience. And
Mhm.
I don't know if I would even bother going back now, because the time in
Yeah,
front of me is less than all that time behind me.
exactly.
So there's no point in it
Exactly.
anymore. But
Hmm.
it is interesting to see that more and more universities or colleges or other educational institutions are now offering all these different courses on business continuity management, or they may have different terminology for it, that were never there before.
Hmm. Yes, and we do actually assess the different universities on a worldwide basis. And every year we look to see what people put as far as their answer options. So within the study, once you say you have a degree, the next question is, do you have an advanced degree specific to business continuity? And it's in
Mm.
red, so that way people, yes or no, they go on for the next question. Do you have a bachelor, master's? And then we actually have a laundry list of the different universities we've been monitoring as far as degree programs. So every year, if someone puts in a new other category, we go and research.
Oh, that's, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a list of all these institutions in the
Yeah,
report, right?
in the appendix. Yes.
Yeah, I knew I saw it somewhere. Yeah, there's a whole bunch, and a lot of them I didn't know that one. And there's
Hmm.
even a list of not just the universities, but the certifications as well to go with
Yes.
it. What they're actually offering. And like I said, half of them I didn't. I went, I've never heard of that one. Well, that's interesting. And there's actually a couple I want to look up now. Because I went, oh, that's interesting. So it's amazing how
Yeah.
how it's changed over time. And on that note, we've come to the end of our first segment. We are talking today with Cheyene Marling from BC Management about the 2021 BCM compensation report. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Today we are talking with Cheyene Marling on the 19th edition of the 2021 BCM compensation report. Cheyenne, a couple more areas I'd just like to touch on. The next one is job titles. Now,
Hmm.
what kind of job title, what kind of responses and were you getting from people and their job titles in relation to their job titles?
So when someone takes a study, they can indicate what their job title is, but we all know that job titles really differ from company to company. So program manager with one organization can be something completely different to another organization. So within the study, we have generic job title descriptions that someone would answer their response to. And that's actually included in the appendix of the report too. Generally speaking, we saw that most of the respondents were manager, program manager, I think followed by subject matter expert, and then VP director. We did add a new job title this year, and that was global program head. So we changed global program manager to someone who might be an administrator or managing a program, but they don't manage staff. But then a global program head is managing a global program along with staff management as well. And we also did have included a chief officer level. And we did notice that those people who responded at kind of the CXO level were either chief risk officers, chief security officer. I think we had one chief continuity officer, but generally speaking, it was either a chief risk officer or chief security officer, where business continuity was reporting into that he or she.
That's interesting, because there's not very many chief continuity officers out there.
No,
So
not
to
too
even
many. I've seen a couple.
so even to snag one for their report is
Yeah,
that's pretty good. You
exactly.
know? With these job titles, have you found that was there any indication that they've been in their job title for a long time?
We did have that assessment, but we generally didn't look at how long they've been within their current job title, doing that cross-layer assessment, but we did look and see if they were involved in a COVID response, how experienced were they, generally speaking, what job title were they at, how long were they in the industry, what was their pandemic experience prior. I don't have those notes in front of me, but I definitely encourage people to take a look at that report, because I know that's included in the COVID piece within the report. So we do try to do quite a few different cross slices and dices of the data within there.
And the last one I just wanted to touch on is the industries of their respondents.
Mm-hmm. So we have, it was over 20 different industries that someone could choose from. Generally speaking, the one that we got the greatest response was from finance. It was 47%. But finance within the study, when you take it, it can be broken into banking, credit card, mortgage, investment. The next one was technology, followed by insurance. I know manufacturing, consulting services was another one that was top of the list as well. So when you do take the study and you do get the dashboard, you can see what the compensation earning potential is by industry. Generally speaking, we don't see that to be a big factor. There are a few industries that pay better than the others, specifically banking and investment, where manufacturing government may not pay as high, but then government has some great benefits on the back end too.
Yeah. Were there any industries that you were surprised to see?
The ones that we generally have a hard time capturing are the ones that aren't quite classified. So utilities sometimes can be a bit more difficult to capture because it could be very specific within the utilities market.
Mm-hmm.
Entertainment, we typically don't get a huge response from, or NGOs, but we received a response from all the industries that we had a selection criteria for.
Oh, that's good. Just out of curiosity, was I know you said 52 countries, were the number of participants this year greater than before or relatively the same, on average to previous years?
It was a little bit a better response than the year previously. I think because people started to learn about the dashboards and they wanted a customized dashboard, that was encouraging people to respond. Even after we produced the report and keeping it open, we've received at least probably close to 40 new responses since publishing the report, because we're pushing, I wouldn't say pushing, that's the wrong word to use. We're encouraging people to participate to get the dashboard.
Is it, just out of curiosity, is that going to be something available all year round? Because it would be interesting to see how, at least in my thinking, how it changes once, let's say, everyone goes back to the office or COVID is declared, quote, over, and see how those responses change.
So I thought about that. I think we're going to want to keep it open till November to see and encourage again people, because every year we publish a report, everyone's always requesting the report throughout the entire year. So I think having that ability to let them know, here, you only get the report, but if you do participate, you get this great dashboard. And the dashboard is going to continue to get better throughout the year as new responses auto-populate into all the dashboards. And in fact, we actually created 44 dashboards already for this compensation assessment.
44, wow.
44. So it's based by, we have one for Canada, one for UK, one for Euro currency, and then by job title for all the respondents, by years of experience for all the respondents, and then USA, again, by job title for USA, and then job title by years of experience. So it's a lot of dashboards out there.
I don't know who manages those dashboards for you, but kudos to them for managing that many.
Yeah.
Being in project management, program management, managing 5 or 6 can be a challenge, let alone 44.
Well, the good news is the tool is very automated, so it's not so much work on our end, but I just have to make sure that anyone who's new to participate, so make sure they get their dashboard, so they're not having to follow up with me a week later.
Now, the report highlighted the stability of the profession. What did you mean by that?
So it's interesting. Every year we take a look, and I'm looking at my notes right now, but we know that being within the profession, that generally speaking, those who during COVID, if they left within the first 3 to 6 months of the pandemic. Either they were furloughed or they felt that they were overworked or just not appreciated. So they would leave for a new position. Generally speaking, we found that right now, companies are really struggling to get employees, and everyone I'm talking to, even if we have a job open, they feel they don't want to leave their employer in a bad situation and leaving in the middle of a pandemic or leaving when they're trying to return to work. So the data showed that 85% continued with their same organization, which is a little bit higher than the years previously. 75% no change, 7% had a promotion, and 3% lateral move. So that's within that 85%. 9% practically sought a new career with a new company. And then there was also downsizing, 2% by company acquisition, restructuring, and we had only 1% that were downsized because of COVID. So obviously our profession was not as impacted as many other professions due to the pandemic.
I know my contract was ended because of COVID, because because it started out as a people's situation, people getting sick, that at the time organizations weren't looking beyond that initial impact. Oh, well, our people are fine, our facilities are fine, okay, HR's got it, so well then what do we need BC for? And I remember seeing in the first, and I think you said 3 to 6 months, of
Yeah.
COVID, lots of people on LinkedIn saying, I've been let go, I've been let go, I've been let go, and I know one who's left the industry altogether, just said I've
Hmm.
had enough time.
Yeah.
They'd been around for 25 years already. So, I think part of that was just early retirement rather than fed up and
Hmm.
leave. So that's interesting. Does that show that in your mind that when this is over, we're still going to be an industry that's stable? Or is that kind of unknown yet until people start going back to the office and then are free to start making some potential changes in their lives? And I ask that because there have been quite a few surveys coming out lately where a very large percentage of people either want to change their jobs, don't want to go back to the office, or leave their industry altogether, especially the frontline
Yeah.
emergency workers. So do you think that maybe it's too early to even guess at where our industry might be going?
That's a great question. So I've been through so many events. I've been through 9/11, Hurricane Katrina,
Mhm.
large scale events, right? And each event has impacted our profession a bit differently. What I've always noticed is that I'm on the perm staffing end. So our work tends to pick up about 6, 9, 12 months after disaster. What's interesting about this one is it surged in April. So to your point, March, we had contracts canceled too. Some of our long-term contractors were canceled on their contracts. Jobs are put on hold. But then in April, what we did not expect to see is a surge in jobs. So typically before COVID, we would track about maybe 20, 25 jobs in US and then maybe 30, 35 internationally. It spiked and surged. Right now, we're averaging about 35 new jobs per week and 40 internationally. And I've seen many weeks, actually, I think it was already 14 weeks this year in 2021, there have been over 50 jobs. We had 3 weeks for over 75 new jobs. That's not counting government jobs that we're tracking. That's private organizations, specifically business continuity crisis management. So there's definitely a need there. There's a high demand for these professionals, and
Hmm.
we can't find the people quick enough on our end when we get a job. So it's companies are really stretched right now with their resources because they need to do so much with their programs. They have the reoccurring BCDR planning activities. They found gaps in their programs. And let's just face it, there's still companies trying to go through acquisitions during a pandemic. So the need is definitely there. I think it's going to continue the surge, the need for at least another year, year and a half out.
I
We're seeing
know.
with our data.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying completely because I've seen it recently on places like LinkedIn and some of the job boards
Yeah.
that there's now an increase in business continuity resilience, business continuity analyst or specialist or
Yeah.
something along those lines, where there wasn't before. It tended to
Hmm.
be emergency management, dealing with the people, and now organizations, it seems, are beginning to look beyond that piece and saying, okay, now we got to, now that we're stable, so to speak,
Hmm.
we need to start increasing our preparedness. We need somebody to come and help us. And I'm starting to see more and more of those kind of postings go up now.
Yeah. And what I'm also seeing is that people don't necessarily want to return to the office though, because they've been able to work successfully from home.
Hmm.
But our companies are coming to us saying, no, we want someone to be in the office. Maybe perhaps work 1 to 2 days a week, every 2 weeks from home, just so we know that they can quickly pivot to work from home if needed. And we have that ability to not have a break in service, right, in making that change. But generally speaking, the companies are coming to us. They want someone to be on site. They want someone to either be on location or be able to come into the office within commuting different distance. The only companies that are exception to the rule are the ones that are based in the San Francisco area. But they were looking at remote workers before COVID hit. So they're a little bit more flexible. And technology companies are also more flexible on the being a virtual workforce.
Now I can't help but ask the question, considering so many people have been working at home for over a year
Mhm.
now, and organizations are looking for people to come in and work on site, why would organizations not be adopting that new hybrid type solution faster rather than saying, yeah, we need someone to come on site, be here on site, when
They
knowing that so many people don't want to be anymore?
they miss the in-person collaboration. and they see business continuity is so critical to understanding all the different components within the office and understanding all the different personalities, being able to create a program that's going to work for that culture is so, so important, because you can't copy one program that's developed for one financial company and take it to another financial organization. It's a different culture. Granted, they have similar regulations, but a different culture perspective. So for our industry, it's granted, I've worked from home since 2009. So I'm always, I'm definitely very able to work from home too. And I'm sure many people are, but I miss collaborating in person. And there's a lot to be said for that you can't necessarily give up and take away from. So if you have someone that is having to commute into the office, depending on how far away they are, then it's adding up the expenses of having them come in. How often? When do they come in? It's, time will tell. Time will honestly tell. But right now, we're hearing from most of our companies that they do want someone to be on site and perhaps have that flexibility to work from home occasionally.
Yeah, I think the flexibility, or as many are calling it, the hybrid model,
Yeah.
it's really going to have to come into play, because I know people, and I'll use myself as an example. I used to commute 2 hours into work and 2 hours back. That's 4 hours commute.
Yeah.
After being at home now for a year and a half and working and doing the shows and everything here, do I really want to add 4 years now?
I know.
I'm a year and a half older. I don't want to be traveling
Mhm.
for
Exactly.
4 hours a day, and longer if traffic is worse, of course. So it'll be interesting to see that it's not just the setup of the office and the what business continuity people can do, but actually how it's going to get done now.
Yeah.
That's going to have to change as well.
No, very good point. Very good point. It'll be interesting. Time will tell. Like I said, time will tell.
Yeah. On that note, we've come to the end of our second segment. We are talking with Cheyene Marling today of BC Management on the 19th edition of the 2020 BCM Compensation Report. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Today we are talking with Cheyene Marling from BC Management about the 2021 BCM Compensation Report. Cheyene, my next question is, how can business continuity management professionals use all this data? Because there is a lot of data here. How can they leverage it for their careers?
So it's important to not just only look at the data findings from a compensation standpoint. It's also important to look at the different data graphs and see what % of respondents have degrees, what % of respondents have certifications, which one, what % of respondents have certain leadership skills, the global planning, activating a program during an event, giving presentations or publishing. So understanding, how do you compare to your peers? So again, the report is great. It's a worldwide assessment, but when you get the customized dashboard by years of experience or by job title, you can even further dig in and go, okay, this is how I compare. So many respondents have the degree, and which ones, master, bachelor. This % of respondents have certification, and which ones. So it gives you kind of an assessment of how your competencies compare to your peers and across the profession. And if you're looking at your career planning, you can kind of assess, where do I want to be with my career? These are the competencies I need to get here. And how do I compare against my peer group right now? And I always tell people, don't zoom into the one data chart that's going to give you the most money. We actually have a YouTube recording, and I think it's actually, when I sent out the dashboards, I include it, but how to benchmark your compensation. So you take the different data charts, figure out where you are in each data chart, and take an average of those to assess what's a fair and reasonable compensation for you. Now, on the flip side, if you're looking to hire an individual, you don't want to keep on going to the table and getting an offer rejected. It's just a bad circle of events. So I encourage my hiring managers to use this report, assess what's a fair, reasonable compensation, so they're attracting the best person they can for the skill sets that they need, and they're not going through that awful circle of having their offers rejected time and time again, because I hear so many of those bad stories as well.
Well, it's interesting because I know one of the charts in here has the hourly rate for contractors. And I've been talking with some organizations recently, and to see the averages that came from this report and what some organizations are asking, they seem to be way off base.
Yeah.
Shall I say?
Yeah.
I don't know why. But there was one of the averages, I think, $93 an hour, somewhere around there, 93 to 123, I think was the average range.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, in your experience, what would make organizations go so low? Is it because we're in COVID?
I think they're just really misinformed. I mean, the reason why we started collecting this data 19 years ago is because companies, quite frankly, did not understand business continuity, and many of them still don't. So they either view it as program management or they view it as an IT function. And it's quite frankly so much more. The people within this profession, they need to understand the entire organization, all the intricacies, the dependencies, and be able to interact with everyone across the entire organization, not just at the CXO level, but from the end user all the way up to CXO. They have to implement a training program. They have to be there when an event occurs. So I think, quite frankly, it's just a lack of understanding. And that's why we've been doing these reports for such a long time, because
Hmm.
there's a lot to be said on what's fair and reasonable. And the one thing that's really hard to pinpoint in this specific report and what I've seen happen is that there are certain geographies that their compensations start to surge quicker than the cost of living because there's a high demand within that specific area, specifically Charlotte. So Charlotte's is a location where you have some very big employers. They're all looking for the same person. And because of that, and they're all looking at the same time, their compensations, the compensations by the professionals, their expectations shoot up, where the employees get kind of side-shocked and they don't understand what's happening. So that's where not only using the report, but coming to professionals that understand the industry, understand the dynamics and what's going on on a regional basis can help companies make sure that they're getting the best person and they're going to the door with reasonable expectations when they make that offer to try to hire the person.
Would that also be applicable to, there's a page in here that has the list of countries and I think it's the full-time rate
Mhm.
of a year, 100,000 a year, or whatever the number is. Would that be applicable there too? Because I noticed there was a big difference
Yeah.
from country to country as well, not just little regional
Mhm.
areas or cities or industry, but by country. I went, wow, I looked at the highest number, which I think was Switzerland,
Yeah. So
if I
it's one of
recall
those very
correctly.
high.
And then
Yeah.
now I've forgotten all of a sudden the lowest one, and went, wow, that's like less than
Mhm.
half. What drives the difference between those two?
Quite frankly, just the country where you're in, the cost of working, right? So I would double check the questions and look and see online, okay, what is someone earning who's a manager, who's a program manager in Kenya or in Malaysia or in, some of these geographies, right? That we don't, obviously the more and more data points you have, the more and more relevant the data and the better the data becomes, quite frankly.
Right.
But we did cross-reference the data just to make sure that it was in line with what makes sense for that specific country or geography.
I know. I think I should go online to see if there's anything available in Switzerland.
Yeah, every time I talk to someone in Switzerland, they are doing well. They are.
It had the highest number in the report, and I went, wow, I
Yeah.
wonder if
Yeah.
they're hiring.
Exactly.
Now, the big question, the last year and a half has
Hmm.
been obviously COVID-19. From all the previous years into this last year, especially, were there any significant changes that you've noticed, or did COVID have an impact on the responses themselves? Things that usually go up went down, things that went
Hmm.
down usually go up, or things that showed up out of nowhere going, well, that's an interesting finding I never thought I'd see.
Yeah. It's interesting because, of course, I'm a data geek. So anyone who knows me, I love to just slice and dice the data. And I was specifically looking for that. I think, again, time will tell on some of the data points. But one thing I was surprised to see is the percent of respondents that were involved in pandemic planning or had so many years of pandemic planning, quite frankly, did not really change from the year before. It was slightly higher, but it wasn't kind of surprisingly higher, what you would think it would be. The few things that I did see were on the benefits side of the house. So we did, because of COVID, we added new benefit selection criteria. So we had it divvied out by health and by medical and then by financial planning and some other nice benefits that your company could offer. So this year we actually added telemedicine, mental health, virtual wellness, caregiving for children as well. So those are answer options we did not have available in the years previously. We did notice that the flexible work schedule obviously increased from 67% to 80%. And that's between 20 and 21.
That's not as big as a jump as I thought it would have been.
You would think it would be more. You think it would be more. But again, so obviously you think of some companies, I know I've spoken to, depending on the industry, they've had to be on site and they haven't skipped a beat. Some of the smaller organizations, they also haven't skipped a beat. They've just gone back to the office. But the larger ones, they have a lot more protocol to follow, and having the 6 feet distance and following the CDC protocols and what have you, right? But so in that one data point, the 67% in 2020, that data was gathered before March. So it is relevant, even though it's a 2020 data point. Last year, we cut off the study in mid-March. So, that's a very relevant data point and reflective of what we've seen in the years past. We also saw telecommuting only increase from 51 to 54%. So I thought, obviously people are telecommuting now. The uncertainty is if that's going to continue in the future, because I'm hearing more and more from candidates I talk to that they know they're going to have to go back into the office, at least maybe have that, like you said, the hybrid model. But they're expected to at least be in the office more than working from home.
Yeah, that's something I actually bring forward too, because I'm not as young as I used to be, and 4-hour drive, I don't want to do anymore. But I'm more than willing to have some sort of a hybrid approach. And I've talked to many people, even a couple of neighbors, the same thing. They used to drive into, I live outside of Toronto, drive into downtown Toronto every day, or taking the train or the subway or whatever the case may be. But all of them, every single one of them to a T, have said, I want a hybrid approach now because I don't want all that traveling anymore.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see how that changes.
How it does.
And do you think maybe some of those numbers didn't go as high as you would expect them to be, because working at home was a contingency for quite a few people? They had the capability, they didn't do it.
Yeah, that could be too. That could be too. Like I said, time will tell on some of the data points, right? One thing that I know that I've heard from my hiring managers that wasn't clear in the study, because we saw a transition from more and more companies having positions exclusively focused on crisis management. So not just business continuity, but you're probably seeing even more yourself, more crisis management related positions. Yeah. So you have those individuals that are part of the business continuity governance, where they're making sure and they're kind of checkboxing everything and rolling out the training programs and doing the exercises. But then you have someone else who's 100% focused in just crisis management. And they're the ones that are activating the program when an event occurs. They're the ones that have to really depend. Well, companies are really looking for the situational awareness. They want the situational awareness in those positions. They want someone who can pivot quickly and adjust the program, adjust the response efforts based on the event. So that's something that this report really couldn't assess. Our next one right now is looking at that, the competencies within the business continuity profession. I know I'm hearing it from my hiring managers, but we don't have any quote unquote, data to really point to.
Were there any things that came out of the report you expected to see but didn't see? And I asked that question simply because you have so much experience in putting these together that sometimes even, it may not be in the report, but there are things that, I wonder if such and such might happen, and you just haven't seen it.
I was expecting to see, again, more younger people get into the profession this last year because of the visibility of the world we work in now. I remember, 10 years ago, we'd tell people what you did and they would look at you like a deer to headlights. What is
exactly.
That?
What?
But I feel now you can say, oh, I do business continuity crisis management. And people kind of have a little bit of an understanding of what that is, especially after the last year of COVID. But this year, the response was still equally the same to the previous years, where people with less than 5 years experience, that pool is so much smaller than those who have 10 plus years experience in the profession. So I don't know if it's just those individuals are not aware that the study's there. I can't really pinpoint it if it's that, or if it's that we quite frankly are not doing a good job at attracting new professionals to the profession. I think it's really kind of a combination of both.
While you were talking, I just thought of, could there have been, we didn't get that result because of the changes in schools, the way school was managed and handled. COVID put a hiring freeze on for many, many organizations, not knowing what was going on and the uncertainty of what was going on.
Yeah.
Is it even worth going into business continuity? Is this a short-term thing or is this a long-term thing? Because COVID is still going on. So it just got me thinking of those points. Potentially, that's why that hasn't shown up. So it'd be interesting to see if it does show up next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think as a profession, we need to do better about attracting new individuals to the career because they come into it with a fresh set of eyes, right? It's not black or white. There's so many gray areas in how we approach business continuity planning, and they come in with some wonderful ideas of how to approach it, make it more simplistic, make it more actionable.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And less biased because if to your point at the beginning, a lot of people fall into it by accident from another industry. A lot of it IT. So you come in with an IT mindset, even though it's business continuity management, you still have that IT bias.
Yeah, so true.
So we've only got a couple of minutes left. Do you have any final thoughts on the report or in general, let's say, from your experiences?
Should I show the dashboard now?
Sure.
Should we test how we do this?
Sure.
Let me make sure my screen.
Got multiple participants. So from my end, you can. There we go.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, I can. Perfect.
Okay. So here's a sample of what the dashboard looks like. And this one, obviously, that we're looking at is for all permanent employees. It keeps on getting better and better as more people participate. Obviously, here I converted to US dollars. So when you go down the report, it will showcase distribution of annual base comp. It will tell you the annual base compensation for everyone who participated, which right now it's showing at just under 112,000. The breakout of full-time, part-time, what have you. It goes down by gender, by ethnicity, job title, by consulting job title. So if you're a permanent employee, say you work for IBM or some of the big five, your separation from executive management, the response to COVID, total years work experience. As we mentioned, we look at work experience, not by business continuity only, but your total years of experience, and then by work experience and business continuity. Years employed with the same employer, same role. So you can see as we go down this, it goes by percent of respondents, but then by compensation as well. So someone who gets this dashboard, again, I encourage you to look through every different data graph and you can kind of see where you fall in with each data graph and take an average. But then from a marketability standpoint, career planning, you can see where you are in comparison to your peers. And again, people who participate in the study, they can ask for this dashboard to be customized by years of experience or job title. When someone takes the study on the permanent side, they can indicate their years of experience in about 20 different disciplines. So we have everything from change management, compliance, cloud infrastructure. And you can see if we scroll back up, people are generally more experienced in business continuity, right? Which makes sense. This is a business continuity study, but we do have all these different disciplines included in here. I'm going to scroll down since I know we're short on time, but I do want to showcase that it also goes down and looks at management skills and leadership skills too. So this has been my kind of secret thing I've been working on over the last 9 months. And we have these dashboards not only for the compensation study, but for the event impact management study, for the BCM trends. So for those out there who want to get more information on how their program compares to their peers, reporting structures, budgets, dedicated personnel. But here, yes, we have program management, budget management. So these are the transferable skills. Many people are doing something else before they get into business continuity. And these transferable skills are still very relevant. And they do factor into your earning potential.
See, that's why I went specifically into some contracts to learn project management and program management, was to gain experience on this stuff. And it does help. Believe me, it does help.
Yeah. And then we get into skills, competencies specifically for business continuity planning. So if you've been in an administrative role or management role on a global perspective, have you activated a program for an event? How many times? Implementing and managing a program from the ground up, training programs. Here's by degree, advanced coursework specifically in business continuity. So it's a lot of data. And then we get into certifications. So this has been, and again, we created I think 44 of these now. So, and we're going to continue to monitor them. So for example, we're very close to publishing one specifically for Australia. I like to see at least about 40 to 50 respondents from one country to develop a dashboard for that one country.
Mm-hmm.
But then if we get more than, 150, then that can, for US, the US gets, everyone with the US, but then it's focused on by job title and then by years of experience. So they get two filters that go into their dashboards.
This would really help anybody in the industry, either new or even seasoned veterans, to help plan where their next steps could potentially go. And taking a look at some of these graphs and dashboards you've got is, where am I lacking? Where can I increase? Doing it like a self-assessment, to move yourself forward, rather than asking your boss sometimes, where do I need to go? What do I need to do? Because they may not be as knowledgeable on business continuity as you are. So these can definitely help anybody move forward.
Yep.
If you want to reposition themselves or rebrand themselves, or anything along that line, so those dashboards can certainly help. And again, they can, people that are listening and watching can go to www.bcmanagement.com under which section again? Sorry.
Research and insights.
Research and insights, and then follow whatever the page says, and can get access to some of this stuff, right?
Of course, definitely.
Great. Any final comments?
No, it's just been a pleasure doing this. It's been, oh my gosh, close to going on 20 years of gathering data. And I'm just super excited to have these dashboards out, and just the impact that it will help with everyone with their careers and then position their program. It's just been a lot of fun. It's been a great journey.
Well, I got to say, it really is amazing to have someone so knowledgeable and participating in the business continuity realm when you weren't even in the business continuity realm.
Yeah.
And to use your own words, it's great to have you here and sharing all the things that help us plan our careers and move forward.
Yep. My pleasure.
So I really appreciate your time and your expertise, Cheyenne. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to everybody watching and listening, stay prepared, everybody. If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave a message and let me know what your thoughts are. If you'd like to be a guest on the show to talk about something related to business continuity, disaster management, COVID, personal well-being, anything that's relatable to those subjects, you can reach me through my LinkedIn profile, which is in the video description. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. In the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.